when I look at every single one of the great salespeople that I've worked with, right? They have a phenomenal, bulletproof level 10 psychology, man.
Yeah.
You know, like their mindset, they work every single day to keep this strong.
How do you break down psychology? Hey, so welcome to the podcast. Super excited today to talk to longtime friend, born on the same day as me, a year apart, and literally one of the greatest sales guys, sales trainers, and business coaches I know, Mr. Bill Pipes, man. So, dude, first time on the podcast, though you've been on the Tom Ferry Show, and obviously we've shared the stage many times. Yep. So for the people maybe listening that have never connected with you, give them a little background. Like, who is Bill Pipes?
So, I mean, we met when I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I was 22. So, I was old.
I thought I was going to be a college professor.
I remember you had like the Pillsbury Doughboy haircut. Yes. Could have also been the Times. Yes.
It was the Times, right? I had the goatee, the haircut.
Yes.
And, met you and, met your dad and had the chance to actually like reevaluate exactly like what I wanted to teach.
Yes.
At that point started this whole process. Now at 13 years old, my mom gave me my first audio program from a company called Success Awareness Institute out of Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she ever read it or
Sure.
listened to it.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
That was in there, but I took it and started listening to it. And that was like the beginning exposure that I had to personal growth and development. And so when you and I met, that was, like, oh my gosh, just kindred spirits.
Yeah.
And then just began to learn about real estate, to learn what it takes to be able to succeed in sales.
Yeah.
And I do have a belief that even though I wasn't in sales at that point, like everyone's in sales. Right?
Yes.
Everyone is a salesperson.
Even a teacher, a professor, a nurse, an attorney.
So fast forward.
Okay, hold on though. Okay. Hold on. You're to go to that, but I totally want to interrupt. Your parents were divorced, right? You're an only child.
Yeah, grew up in a small town in southeast Texas till I was 13 years old called Kirbyville, had 1,972 people in it.
Yeah, and then you left.
I left.
Screwed the entire population up.
My mother moved to California.
Yeah.
And I remember I went from Kirbyville one summer to where she was, living in Irvine, and she took me to Laguna Beach, and I started thinking about it going, okay, Kirbyville, Texas, or Laguna Beach, Irvine, and I went, there was no thought.
Yeah. Don't get mad, Texas. Don't get mad. If you've been to Laguna Beach.
Yeah. I still love Texas. I mean, that's where my roots are.
Yeah.
And I have, amazing, behaviors that were created based upon those roots of a small town.
Yeah.
But the exposure that I got out here was invaluable, right? Yeah. And so, then started to learn, about real estate, right? Mm-hmm. Your dad had you and your dad had this thought of, let's take people that have never sold real estate and teach them how to be coaches.
Yes.
And so I cycled into that.
This was a test.
This was a test.
I remember that
emergency
test.
Broadcast system, right?
Yes.
And then we, I think I was the only one out of that entire group of 10 people that they tested that still is doing what it is that I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. And it just sort of grew from that. I found a natural affinity to being able to support people. I got the same pop that I wanted from, what I wanted to do as a professor after watching a movie called Dead Poets Society, right? And I said, I want to inspire people. I want to, have people stand up on desks and, oh, Captain, my Captain.
Yes.
And then, but I started to get that. I realized I could get that from a different avenue, which was being able to coach, train, lead seminars. Right?
Yes.
And so it just naturally started to evolve into that. And you had me do my first event.
I remember handing you the microphone.
So, and I remember the first event that I ever did. I'm showing up, I'm going to Connecticut. I think it was Prudential, Connecticut at the time. And the day before I leave, you say to me, by the way, they think I'm coming. They don't know you are. So here's what you say.
Yes.
You remember that?
I do. And I'm sorry, Candace, the CEO of the company. We did work that out. Yes. Yes. She knew.
Yes, she knew.
No one else knew.
But you know what?
Yeah.
No one else knew because I'd been trained so well by you.
Yes.
And gone through and what I did, which I think is a critical part of most people that I find who are highly successful at anything they do, as in sales, is I became a student of sales.
Yes.
I studied it as if I was, because I was a student before, right?
Yes.
In a master's and PhD program. And so the way I approached learning sales was the same way that I approached actually learning anything that I was learning, which was dive straight into it as if I was going to be tested every single week.
Exactly. And rigorously go through to understand all the different perspectives and points of view.
Yep.
Any good professor, you're not going to go just myopically one approach. You're going to look at all the different ways. So, go ahead.
So then I took what I had learned and I applied it to a mortgage company, directlender.com, with 2 partners. And we grew that from I think we had 67 people at the beginning, and we had over 2,000 people when I left.
Yeah. Loan officers
and support, back end support. Then, left that, went into real estate, created a referral network and a team in Salt Lake City that basically did business in Salt Lake and all of Utah, partnered with individuals. This is before there was the expansion model team.
Yes. What year was that?
That was 2010.
Yes.
A coaching client that I was working with came to me and said, I'm getting all of these leads. And I said, well, what are you using? And I said, how many are you getting? And she's like, we're getting 400, 500 leads a month. And I'm like, that's bananas.
Yeah.
And where are you getting it? And she said, well, there's this thing called Boomtown. And so we were, I think, user number 45 of Boomtown when I remember going to Unite when it wasn't Unite.
Yes.
And there was maybe 60 of us in the room.
Yes.
And going to Charleston and with Greer and with Rivers, right? And David Kim and that whole crew that was at the very beginning. So we took that team and then grew it to we did about 175, 176 transactions, both traditional sales and also those that were being referred out, because we created an ISA team before. We were like just figuring our way out before anyone had ever done it. And I thought, salespeople, from what I know, don't like to prospect. They don't like to make calls. So if we can take that off of them, how much more business could they do? And so we had a 28 to 35% model that said, it'd be 35%, drops down to 28% that we would charge our referral partners. We would generate the leads, vet out the leads, and then, send them over to them and they would close them.
Anyone listening right now that's in the game of real estate understands that was an early arbitrage play. This is, Zillow was certainly around them, but they weren't the force that they became even 5 years later. Boomtown today is a monster company supporting thousands and thousands of companies. That's interesting that you had that insight. Like, what were some of the early sort of moments or triggers or lessons? Because Bill, it was pretty insightful to say, hey, I could have a website in 3 or 4 or 5 locations, right? I could be generating leads and then have this, we weren't calling it ISAs back then. We were calling like telemarketers.
They were telemarketers,
right? I'm going to have a telemarketer who makes phone calls, right? We sort of glorified it with ISA and OSA and all that stuff. And then on the back end, you didn't mention that your wife, Marcy, right? Beautiful Marcy is a loan officer. Yeah. So she was also crushing a ton of loans in the process.
All of the, like we would double dip, right? And so it made it very profitable for us because she would get the loans on maybe about 55 to 65% of the transactions. So all of a sudden we have this great model that's running phenomenally. Most of the leads being generated by Craigslist. So anyone remembers Craigslist, right? So, and then it was a shell game.
Hold on, I'm actually going to look at Rich, our producer. Rich, do you recall that Craigslist, right? Do you know that Craigslist for a while was like the hottest lead generation? It's what Facebook has become, or even I wouldn't say Google, I'd say Facebook, like placement ads. Craigslist was the dominant way to do that back in the day. It was unbelievable how hot that was. And then it just gone.
They got rid of it.
Yeah.
They got rid of the links on it. But we had a team of VAs because you used to be able to log into the computer. They would post. We'd have to have it in a certain location because it would pick up the IP address. I mean, it was a game.
You had the shell game.
It was a shell game. And they'd
different computers, different IP addresses,
we'd have to
different
update
locations.
The computers every 60 days. Get rid of them. I'd go onto eBay, buy these cheap towers. Ship them out to our locations. And it was fun. It was actually fun. And again,
you were gaming and hacking the system, right? It was nothing illegal, just gaming and hacking the system to try. For those of you that don't recall this, and I know a lot of our longtime friends are like, yes, we remember these times, because you would like think about how busy Twitter is today. You post a tweet today. I can remember getting on Twitter in 2007 or 8, and I'd post a tweet like, hey, I'm going to lunch, and 58 people would go, cool, where are you going? Right? Well, today, to get that kind of response, you've got to have like a gazillion followers because it's just so busy. And Craigslist wasn't busy. So you could post an ad saying, not back then, curious about the value of your home, or like, tired of renting, looking to buy a house. Totally. And you would get this tremendous response. But then everybody caught on to it. And then they had to change the algorithm, right? And everybody adjusted. Yeah. And then it just was gone.
It was gone. And we sold off our company at that time. We actually over-indexed on Zillow to be able to actually not just keep doors open, but the profit margins got squeezed. We sold it to our team members. I think the other piece was too, when I look at what made that entire system work, it wasn't me. Right. Yeah. I mean, I would come in because I was still traveling 100 days a year.
You set up a business. You were coaching and training, and
I was still 100 days a year on the road.
Yes.
So my wife Marcy, like big shout out to you, Marcy.
Yeah, huge.
She was, one of the big things that I learned is as an artist entrepreneur, and this is before I even heard the conversation from you. It was she was the operator, right? Yep. And she was the one that was creating the systems and doing everything else along those lines. So, I learned at that time, like my big lesson that I learned from that was, any artist entrepreneur, which I think most great salespeople are, they've got to align themselves with an operator, right? Otherwise,
1000%.
It doesn't run.
Okay, we can truthfully just shout out the podcast right there. And if everybody just got that point, think about it. Everyone out there that's listening that, if you are like Bill and I, you have a very full life. Notice we don't say things like busy because that's not what it's about. We just have very full lives, right? We have a lot of commitments, a lot of people, a lot of fun, a lot of travel, a lot of exposure, a lot of work, a lot of projects, the whole 9 yards, right? 24/7, go. And here's the deal. I know in my own business, we got to a level that we simply could not grow beyond Tom Ferry's passion.
Totally.
Tom Ferry's excitement, Tom Ferry's energy, Tom Ferry's vision. Yeah. But most importantly, Tom Ferry's time. Yeah. I could only maximize my time. And I know everyone listening knows this. Like, you're doing searches at midnight. You're sitting there in bed at night when you should be snuggling up to your baby. And instead you're like, oh my God, I got to follow up on that email, right? Like, that's because you don't have that operational excellence next to you, that person, not your spouse. Well, maybe your spouse, but I'm saying you shouldn't be sleeping with your operator unless it's your spouse. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't have that person that is the yin to your yang. So was there another time in your life that you learned that lesson, or can you just reflect on that moment with Marcy, or where else? Because it's such a big one.
Dude, that was the big lesson.
First time I've been called dude on my podcast. I'd like to thank you very much.
Well, 27 years, man.
Exactly.
Like 27 years.
Dude, what's on my back? Sweet,
dude. That was like, looking back, that was a big aha for me in business because I believed I had to do it all myself. Yeah. Right. And I realized.
Speak to that. Tell us more about that.
I thought I had to be everything. I thought I would make myself wrong for not being systemic and organized. Yep. Right. I would, but when I happened to marry my operator, right, and I didn't, and I knew at that time that she filled in gaps that I didn't, naturally was inclined to do. I started noticing like my normal everyday life started working. Yeah. So when we launched the business, I said, hey, I got this idea. And she, of course, shot holes in it, right? And then said, well, if we're going to do this, here's how we need to do it. And so I realized at that point, and this is a key point, I don't have to have all the answers, but I have to have the relationships with people who do have the answers.
Big.
And so, that has become, even as a coach, right? I may not always have the answers, but I have a network of 160 other coaches that I can reach out to, or other, top executives in the real estate industry that I can go, I've got this challenge. Can you help me out on it? How would you do? What would you do? What have you heard, et cetera? Yep. So that was, it's having some humility to realize that I don't have to have all the answers. I need to have the relationships.
I think that's so big. And I can't think of any survey or enough sort of quantitative data, feedback, if you will, on this. But I would argue that the vast majority of people that don't have an assistant or really have that sort of like ego pride, like I've got to do it myself. My client expects it. I've got to be at every showing. I've got to be at the closing. Like all this BS, right? But not for them. BS to others that maybe like us, it would say, not really, right? Like you could leverage yourself. Is it pride? Is it ego? Is it lack of awareness? Like did you have a moment where you're like, wait a minute, this isn't working, right?
I had no choice because whether I liked it or not, I was on the road 100 days a year.
Yeah.
I had no choice.
Yeah.
Like, I think if everyone started to think about the fact that if they were only in their business 50% of the time, and they still, relied upon, because when we first started Titan Referral Network, which was the name of it, when we first started TRN, it was not profitable.
Yes.
Like our first 4 months, we were tripping over ourselves and, like spending money and doing other things and just getting everything set up. But,
I'm sorry, the lag time between lead generated appointment set and, transaction and then closing, right? So 4 months is a shocker for me. I would think 6.
4 months, we started to actually see decent revenue coming in.
Got it.
At 6 months, we had figured it out through talking to other individuals that were also Boomtown users. And then really at the 12-month mark, because this went on, we sold it in 2015, right? February of 2015. So by that point, we had crested. Our profits had begun to drop just a little bit because of the fact that Craigslist was no longer available. We were, paying a little bit more for Zillow at that time. Like we started to index on Zillow, and so, but like I had no choice. So if you're thinking, I got to do this all on my own. This is one of the things that I talk to all the people that I coach is, sure, you can do everything and maybe you can do it the best, but it's not the best because it requires you trading money for time.
Bingo.
And if you're trading money for time, you're not running a business. You're just a self-employed individual.
Yeah. It's so interesting to, I think back, I reflect on like, I think it was Tony Robbins who would say, you're either resourceful, right? Or you blame resources. Yeah. And so many, it's such a, it's just such a truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you and I, who part of our world is being on the road, right? Like we're joking last night as we're walking the island talking about some of the crappiest hotels we've ever stayed in and some of the nicest hotels and airports. And, if you've been to this place and have you ever spoke to that group and, when you are legitimately an absentee owner, right? It has advantages and disadvantages, right? And you either say, I'm going to find people I trust, people I like, people I can support, people that can grow with me, or you basically have less of a business. Yeah. And I think it's, not everybody's in that same situation, but I would argue that many of you want way more time in your life and rather than traveling 100 days a year on the road, maybe it's you spend all of that quality time with your children, with your friends, on your golf game, on something that you're super uber passionate about. And you can have it all if you're willing to leverage, right? If you're willing to acknowledge, maybe you're the operator and you can talk people out of buying every single day, right? And what you need is that face for your business, right? It had nothing to do with what we originally discussed. We wanted to talk about on this, but I think it's critically important. It's a great distinction.
Yeah, and I think the other distinction too, before we start jumping into some other things here, is the importance. I learned the importance of the people you choose to align yourself with.
Yeah, speak to that.
Sure. So I was very clear that as we were doing the expansion model, that I need
pre-Keller Williams expansion model.
Anything.
Yeah. You were just like, there's just money over there. There's money over here.
I'm like, wait, I can, because I think Boomtown at that time was $999.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can do that here. I can do that here. And Salt Lake City, Utah has one MLS for the entire state. So I could run one.
One site for the whole state.
When I started looking at who I was going to partner with in Silicon Valley, who I was going to partner with in Northern California, in Napa area, who I was going to partner with in San Diego, who I was going to partner with, I started looking at people that had the qualities that both I had, right, as leaders, and then also that were great salespeople, right? And so had I chosen the wrong partners, and I was very fortunate because I had a great network of agents that I had built over the years, and I learned those partnerships needed to be based upon great salespeople, right, and in the organization.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
I was just on Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin's podcast, Water Cooler. Big shout out to those guys. Super fun. Known them, forever and ever, and really proud of the work that they're doing. Chris said to me, I was looking on your YouTube channel and, one of the top videos is why agents fail. Like, well, what are the qualities that make someone succeed? And I certainly had my opinion. I'd be super curious because you've coached a boatload of people. You've spoken to, a couple 100,000 people. So you've interacted with a lot. What would you say are those 3, 5, 6 qualities that those of us that want to get better should be modeling ourselves after or trying to emulate?
Can I just go sales in general?
Yeah,
because
go sales.
Because I think there's going to be people that are listening to this that are in real estate and then also in other verticals of the business. I think number one, we've all heard this before. I mean, when I look at every single one of the great salespeople that I've worked with, right? They have a phenomenal, bulletproof level 10 psychology, man.
Yeah.
You know, like their mindset is, I think at Tommy Toole, you know, like, you know, stuff can be falling apart.
He's going to be so pissed you call him Tommy on the podcast. I thought I was the only one that had the right to call him.
Yes. But, you know, and I could go through the list of men and women. They work every single day to keep this strong.
How do you break down psychology? What are the, you know, the sort of the pieces of, like, you know, is it the way I think? Is it the way I move my body? Is it?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, actually, it's been proven that you can change your body, which changes your emotional state.
Yeah.
All right. I can put my shoulders back. I can smile. Yeah. Automatically, it's going to
chest up, smile on face.
Yeah, chest up. You know, shoulders back. Right.
Yeah.
And from Jordan Peterson, which I love.
Yeah.
How I can do that, but I think there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
I think. And I learned this when we climbed Aconcagua. What I learned is I could do all the training mentally that I wanted to. I could do my affirmations, my visualization. You know, I mean, we've all heard, you know, do your affirmations, your self-talk matters. We've heard visualize the end outcome, you know, like
see yourself achieving the goal.
See yourself achieving, listen to things that are going to motivate and inspire you. However, what I found was this, and I found this up on the mountain, and I think it's as true on the mountain as it is down here, you know, as a salesperson, is you're going to get ground down to your weakest common link.
Yes.
All right. So I think that there's a direct correlation between your sales skills, right, and also your mindset. Because if you got weak sales skills,
you can say just skills.
Yeah, skills
right?
in
skills in general, right?
In general,
your
anything.
mindset.
So, because if your skills are lacking, you can do all the self-talk. You can read all the books. You can watch all the.
I'm going to close this deal. I'm going to do whatever it takes, and you get there and you're like, bleh.
Yeah, and then you walk out, and your mental mindset is destroyed, and it's much lower, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have the skills to support. Versus you walk into a presentation, you're on the phone, you know what to say. Someone throws you an objection, right? It's actually a small win, and that's the thing that I think you got to look at is small wins. Absolutely 100% build a great mindset. And the way that you catalog more small wins is by having great skills. And, you know, like at Sales Edge, that's what it's about. Right? Yeah. It's all about, can you build the skills to be able to actually maintain, you know, to produce results and have those small wins that build up to large confidence.
Should we be tracking our wins?
100%. You know, if I find someone that their mindset is weak or they're going through some challenging times, which I think everybody does.
Yeah.
What I'll have them do is every single day I'll have them write down what are the 3 wins that they actually had.
Yeah.
Now, something interesting happens when you do this. You have 2 chemicals that actually work concurrently to be able to create a sensation of confidence.
The professor is coming out.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, great bearded one.
Yes.
So you have serotonin and you have dopamine.
Yes.
Okay. When you actually focus on and you like start to catalog what it is that you did right.
Yeah.
And you go back and you go, well, you know what? I closed 4 more times than I normally do.
I actually closed.
I made my phone calls. And you take the time to actually go, what did I do in the last 24 hours that was a win? You actually release dopamine and serotonin. And serotonin is it's the chemical that is responsible for that feeling you get when you go to like Six Flags Magic Mountain, right? That feeling of or jump out of airplanes or whatever.
That's the feeling that people get when they look at their iPhone and see like 7 people like their Instagram.
That's right.
It's like, right? That's like people like, don't look at your phone at night because you're waking yourself up.
Because you're getting
dopamine.
You're getting a serotonin hit, and then the dopamine is actually what the companies have actually used to actually create, those drugs that calm you down, right?
Oh, interesting.
So the serotonin is that, boom, that hit,
Got it. Okay.
right? The dopamine keeps you calm. If you combine those 2 together, it actually creates a neurochemical sensation of confidence. So there's science that actually backs up that when you catalog, the things that you're doing that are working, it actually generates the chemicals in your body that you need necessary to be able to actually create confidence.
Got it.
It's a cool hack.
Absolutely. Okay, so we started this question by saying, you've studied and worked with and coached and trained all these amazing people. The first one you said was absolutely psychology, and then we kind of danced through a lot of that and gave some insight, and then we talked a little bit about skill. Yeah. So I'm assuming skills is going to be on your list.
Skills is absolutely on my list, but I want to ask you a different question though. Okay.
About skills.
Yeah.
so many people I know that are like, oh yeah, well I went to that course, or yeah, I read that book, or like, oh, my skills are good. Like, yeah, there's a commercial, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but like, it's like basically, I think it's like AT&T. They're like, are you a good surgeon? Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. Right? Like, well, you don't want a good surgeon.
No.
You don't want a good set of brakes. You want like perfect brakes.
The commercial that I love the most of that one is they're getting on a amusement park ride.
Yes.
Right? You check this? Yeah, I think it's okay. Well, what happens if it doesn't work and something happens to us? We just move on to the next city.
We just move along.
We can't do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I guess I'm done selling here. I'll go to the next city.
Well, what do you say to the person that is maybe plateaued and is just like maybe uninspired to learn new skills? They've just gone to maybe a fixed mindset when it comes to sales, persuasion, influence, magnitude, energy, whatever you want to call it, right? The ability to move somebody forward. What do you say to that person?
Create bigger goals.
Really?
100%.
Okay.
So you and I, okay, this was 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. We're sitting, we're having, I forget where we were, but we're having dinner, and I think we're in Laguna Beach. Right?
I was like, we've traveled a lot together, so I'm like, where were we?
I'm trying to remember exactly where we were.
Just give me more context.
We're in Laguna Beach, and we're having a conversation, and what I'd found was I'd become uninspired as a speaker.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was almost ready to be done.
I remember that. How about the Darren Hardy story? You got to tell that one.
Oh yeah. So
finish your uninspired as a speaker, and then I'm going to hit you with the Darren Hardy story.
But what I noticed was this is, human beings run patterns.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's all we are, is pattern recognition machines.
Yeah.
Okay. The pattern.
Say that again.
All that we are as human beings is pattern recognition machines.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And I truly believe that most people are dying in installments. Okay. That because they're not pushing themselves, they're not putting themselves in uncomfortable situations. They're making decisions of what they can and can't do, that they're dying off in installments. And so
powerful.
I had that happen, right? And I noticed that the way it was showing up for me was I was telling the same stories for like 15 damn years at events, man. And I came to you and we started having this conversation.
I remember this.
And
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so I started looking at, Marcy and I were traveling, we're making great money.
Yeah.
Had the cars,
impacting
house,
a ton of people,
everything, and I'm like, I'm just not inspired.
Yeah.
And
you were on autopilot, dude. You were exactly the people that I'm asking the question about.
Yeah. And
like,
so,
you had plateaued.
Yeah. What I realized was, even though we're doing a bunch of traveling, having a great time, living a great life, we were eating at restaurants, and like the reason I didn't have new stories was because I wasn't doing anything in my life that was story worthy. Right.
Bingo.
And so I made a commitment at that point that
I want everybody to say that again. This was a very big distinction for you.
The reason that I didn't have great stories to tell from the stage to inspire others was because I wasn't living a life that was story worthy.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting myself in situations, positions, and setting goals that scared the crap out of me.
Yep.
Right. And so
you weren't growing.
I wasn't growing.
You weren't doing anything other than work, kids, life.
Totally.
And listen, just be clear, my friends. We're talking about living an extraordinary life here. You weren't creating memories.
No, not at all.
I mean, yes, dinner with your wife is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But you get to do that 3 days a week.
Absolutely.
Right? Like something special.
Yeah.
So what did you tell them what you decided to do?
So I made a commitment at that point that I was going to start doing, like living a life, for two reasons. Number one was because my commitment, one of the commitments I have in life is I believe there's a responsibility when you've gotten a little bit further down the path to be able to actually block and tackle for those that are behind you.
Yes.
Right. And so I was committed to actually doing things that were inspiring to me so that I could subsequently, use those stories to inspire others into action.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And then also because I wanted my son and daughter to be able to look at me, and I wanted them to see me at 40, I think I was 42, 43, doing things that others had never done in their life. So I made a commitment I was going to climb Kilimanjaro, which I did. Yep. And then that commitment moved over into me going, well, I'm going to climb Aconcagua down in South America. And when I made that commitment, it went, if you're going to do 2 of the 7 top summits, why not do all of them?
Yeah.
So at that moment, I made a public declaration that I'm going to climb all 7 of the summits, which I now back down to 6 because I'm not going to do Everest simply because it's such a mess. And there's people that are on the mountain that should be on the mountain, and it's too much of a risk at that point. So then all of a sudden now I've got, everything changed at that moment because my training changed, my workouts changed, what I ate, the way I related to myself, because I had a goal that I had no idea where I was going, how I was going to do it.
Yeah.
But
you couldn't just say, I got this.
No, I couldn't go.
You didn't know what to get. You didn't know how to train for
idea.
it. You didn't know,
I'd never really done any mountain climbing, man. I'd done a little bit. I live in Salt Lake City, but I'd never done anything like that.
Yeah.
And so when
I don't think mountain climbing is like going up the path of Snowbird that was carved out for you.
That's right. Yeah. Like us in Jackson.
I've done it. We just did it. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think this was a little more serious.
So I would circle back around to your question.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is, why is it that someone has hit that plateau? Chances are they've hit a majority of their goals, right?
Yes.
They've stopped growing and learning.
Yep.
Okay. And on top of that, they haven't created something in their mind that is so big and scary and audacious that it's going to force them to actually into the next evolution of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very well said. All right. So just for fun, tell the Darren Hardy story.
Man. Oh, yeah.
You heard this, Rich?
Rich, have you heard this?
This is so great.
So we're doing a seminar. You're doing a seminar. I just joined the company.
Whatever, 6-7 years ago.
You're down in San Diego. We're down in San Diego, and Tom says, "Hey, let's go to dinner. We're gonna go to dinner with Darren Hardy. Do you want to go?" And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, Darren Hardy. Sort of have a what would you call it?
He's the publisher of Success Magazine. Dude. He's written a ton of books. A very charismatic guy.
Very charismatic,
he's a dude.
And
he's a good guy.
He's a baller.
Yeah.
He legitimately someone that I looked up to a lot.
Sure.
And so we go to dinner in, I think it's Encinitas or Cardiff, and we're at, I think the Beach House is the name of the restaurant. And I remember we walk in and he's sitting there. He's at the bar, and then we go sit down, and Tom and him start having this conversation, Rich, right? And they start talking about their goals, right? And as they're talking about their goals, Tom goes, "Hey, Darren, what are you doing? What's going on this next year?" And he's like, "I'm gonna interview this person and that person.
What are you inspired about? What are you working on?"
And then Darren gets done, and then he turns to Tom and he goes, "Hey, Tom, what about you? What's happening this next year in your business?" Now, this is November. Do you remember that? It's November. So we're in this goal setting sort of conversation.
New year, new you. What are you going for? What are you inspired about?
And so halfway through, I didn't know it was halfway, but you're probably 4 minutes into talking about, we were launching Sales Edge the next year. There's a bunch of cool stuff that was happening. And all of a sudden I go, "Oh shit, it's coming to me." I get the hot potatoes coming to me. And I'm sitting there okay, I better get this right. Okay.
I have to go to the restroom. I'll be right back.
All my looking good starts to kick in. So it comes to me and I start going through Tom goes, "Pipes. So
how about you, man? What are you committed to?"
And so start going through my stuff and my goals, and you're nodding at me like this as I'm doing it. I remember this, and I get done, and I'm like, "Okay, that's over." Right? Yeah. And then you go, "Can I be honest with you?" I'm like, "Sure." And he goes, "Well, why do you want it?"
Yeah.
You said that was a big question. Yeah. Why do you want it?
Yeah.
And I thought about it for a second. And I proceeded to tell you why it is I wanted it, and then you looked at me, and I'm freaking will remember this to the day I die. You go, "Well, based upon that, I think you're going to fail." And I remember, he said, "Based upon that, I think you're going to fail." When I gave him my why, and I remember the whole world going, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!" And I remember thinking in my mind, "Well, based upon that, you SOB redhead, I'm going to freaking punch you in the nose, in front of Darren Hardy. How dare you, man?" Yes. And I sort of checked out, a little bit from the conversation. I remember you saying, jokingly, you go, "Bill," and it sounded like this, Bill, come back to the conversation, right? And so I turned, and you said, "Are you upset?" I'm like, "No, why?" Right? And of course I was. And you said, "Can I share with you why I said that?" And you said, I said, "Sure," because I'm always. That's the other piece.
You're very coachable.
I think that's one of the strengths that great salespeople have is they're willing to be coachable, to not have it all figured out.
Yep.
And you said, "You've got $1 million goals. You got a $50,000 why?"
Yeah.
Right. And Darren said, "Bill, are you up for some coaching?" And I said, sure. He said, here's what I found in all the interviews that I've done. And he did like with Oprah,
Elon Musk, and
he
just
said,
these extraordinary,
he said,
Warren Buffett, like on and on.
Now, again, to the day I die.
Yeah.
Remember this. Both of what you guys said. He said, here's the if there was a secret to success. He said, anybody can do the things they want to do. The average person does the things they want to do on the days they want to do it.
Yeah.
Successful people have figured out a way to do the things they don't want to do and still do it well on the days they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I asked him, well, how, right? Which is the obvious question to that answer. And he said, they have a why that borders on an obsession, right? And I think for most salespeople and most human beings, when they set goals, it's a good idea. It's an obligation. Yeah. There's not the why behind it.
Well, I was sitting in a class.
Yeah. I'm in this class. I've got to create it. So versus this is an absolute must. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's first of all, thank you. Like I asked you to share that story because I think everybody's been in that situation. Yeah. I've been in that situation. I remember the first time I met Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was, we've all we've been in a situation before. You're with my wife and Coach Mary Jett and her husband, and we're in Santa Monica and we're at this restaurant, and Devin is just this brilliant teacher,
super smart,
and just super and Mary and Kathy are just going off having goofy fun, and Devin's like, well, so if Schwarzenegger came up here, like, what would you do? I'm like, oh my God, I'd ask him this and this and this and this and right, like I'd be super impressed, like his background, his story, his history, and of course, 15 minutes later, we're like in some other conversation, and all of a sudden this giant hand comes down on my shoulder. Hello there, how you doing? Do you like my restaurant? And I couldn't say anything. I literally, he left. I excused myself to the restroom. I came back. By the way, my wife and Mary Jett are now behind the ropes at his private table. Devin is sitting there laughing his ass off at me, and he goes, dude, I swear to God, the only thing you said was beep. So we've all been in that situation before. It's just interesting, that's not a skills thing.
No, but it's
an awareness thing.
Are you willing to take the lessons that life gives you from the minor or major breakdowns that occur?
Yes.
Yeah. Watch, that was a minor breakdown.
For sure.
But I look back on that, and that was a pivotal point in my life. And I think if you're not aware, right? If you're not present and you're not open, that's the key. If you're not open to the contribution of other people in the world, then you'll end up bumping your head against the same shit over and over and over again until you get the lesson.
Yeah.
So
that's big, man. That's big. So
there's one more piece too.
Yeah, I was going to say we were talking characteristics.
Yeah,
so
characteristics.
What else you got?
Empathy. You had Chris Voss on, which I just
super fun.
Freaking love that guy.
Yeah.
Dude, his book and all the studies, and again, I've continued to study. Right.
Yes.
I think that's why is it that I'm still passionate now? It's because I'm setting big goals and I still study. Right.
Yes.
I realize
we're trying to close the gap with new knowledge, new insights,
and there's and something that I haven't learned that I read again and I go, oh, how did I miss that? Like a great movie. So, what I learned from Voss that I think is so critical is empathy. That empathy, and I think I'm going to quote him and do the best that I can to actually get it right. Empathy is the first step that he uses for influence.
Yes.
Right? As an FBI negotiator. And so, like for myself, before I step on stage, I realize that really communication, and sales is communication, right? Between two individuals. Communication is the transference of energy between two people.
I'm really glad you said that, yes.
Yeah, because right now it's
one of my favorite truths.
Energy back and forth. Yep. You guys right now, Richard in the room and then everyone who's listening. What's happening
Have you met Courtney yet?
No. Hi, Courtney.
Yeah.
Nice
to meet you.
So
I was like, sorry, mid, podcast, quick connection. Yes.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Courtney. So,
hashtag Courtney rocks.
Courtney rocks.
Yes.
So communication is a transference of energy, right? And I've got to make sure why do I do mindset? Why does someone do mindset work? You're in the right energetic state, right? Why is it that you have empathy? Because people can feel that.
Yes. How you feel on the inside radiates to people on your outside.
Absolutely.
So if you're getting a weird response from people, it's you.
Do you remember?
Not them.
Do you remember Wayne Dyer? Obviously, you remember Wayne Dyer.
Yes, I remember Wayne Dyer. Yes, God bless him.
Yeah, absolutely. Another great mentor of both of ours, right? And he said something, and I'm going to come back to this whole conversation with Voss. He said something that if you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
Right? Which I love that quote.
Yep.
You know, like that's why I believe there are no challenging clients. There's only salespeople that lack versatility.
Bingo. Okay? Oh, say that again.
There are no difficult clients.
Yes.
There's just salespeople that lack versatility. Yeah. Now, I know some of you are going, well, you don't know some of the clients that I've worked with.
And,
right?
and my response is, like, the greatest opportunities are in the people that you can't connect with.
Yeah.
Like how hard is it with the easy ones? Yeah. It's not. Right now, there may be difficult transactions, another buyer, seller, other agent, yada, yada. But, like, the fun is in the person that starts with, like, screw you.
That's right.
I hate salespeople. You're like, I'm going to get you.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's the opportunity for growth.
Yes.
Right? So from an empathy standpoint, because I always, I heard empathy was important before, and I heard that you need to be empathetic, and I tried my best to actually define what empathy was, and went online and did a whole bunch of searches, and then eventually what came to me was, if I want to change my focus and be empathetic, I've got to ask myself different questions, right? So before I go on stage, before I pick up the phone, when I was in sales, when I was in traditional phone sales or prospecting, there's a series of questions that I ask myself. And I think every single person that's listening right now can use these questions. And it's not just for real estate or whatever sales that you're in, it's for any relationship that you have, right? The questions I ask myself are this. Number one, what do I like about this person? Okay. And if my mind goes, nothing, then I go, well, if I were to like something.
If I could like something.
So I have to play a game with myself, right?
Yeah.
And number two is, the second question I ask is, what do I appreciate or am I grateful for them? Right? Okay. So I'm getting ready to call a lead. What do I like about them? What am I grateful? What do I appreciate? Well, I appreciate the fact that, we had a good conversation last time. I appreciate the fact that they're even considering me to be able to actually be the person that's going to sell their house or they're going to buy a product from. I even go so far as to say what I love about them.
Yeah,
right?
Me too.
And then the next one is, what is their problem and how can I solve it?
Bingo. Okay?
So if you ask those questions, it reframes, the way that you actually are thinking about the person, which subsequently impacts the way that you respond and you talk to them. And that creates empathy.
I do that before almost every coaching session with clients as well. And my clients have all been with me for like 500 years, right? Yeah. And I'm still like, what do I love about Josh Rubin?
Yeah.
What do I love about Maxine Gellens, right?
What do I appreciate about that?
But it also makes you present. And I think, it's hard to be empathetic, to truly be empathetic and connected if you're looking over the person's shoulder, if you're looking at your email while you're making the phone call, if your cell phone is a distraction, you've got to be present. So these questions really are just focusing in head and heart and hands, right? That whole, Rich remembers that head, heart, hand conversation from Jim Quick, into that client.
Yeah.
So from there,
I would take it one step further as well too. If we're talking awareness, right? Because it really is great salespeople have high levels of empathy and awareness.
Yep.
Okay. And so I'm going to go old school sales.
Yeah.
You've got to have some type of script or dialogue that you're at least following as an outline. Okay. My goal in teaching, which I've now taught 300,000 plus individuals, art and science of sales and persuasion and influence at seminars, probably even more than that now, is not to turn them into robots because we teach them scripts and dialogues. It's to give them the framework to have a conversation so that they're not thinking about what do I need to say next.
Bingo.
Because to your point about awareness, if you're thinking, okay, what am I going to say? Where do I go with this? You all of a sudden have just disconnected from the person that you're speaking to or that you're in front of. And people feel that. Again, communication, transference of energy.
Yes.
All of a sudden they feel like, and they don't go, oh, this person's disconnected. The way it occurs is when you're busy thinking, what do I say next? They're not listening. They don't care.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lose all trust in that moment. Not all trust, but you lose a lot of trust in that moment. We could spend days on that, but I was thinking, even Chris Voss in that interview, he's like, 55% is your body is your communication. I was like, we've been talking about this. It's forever. Yeah. But for those of you that haven't heard, so it's 55% of your total communication is the way that you move your body, right? So if you think about Courtney, if I'm saying to you, hey, did you want to meet with me today at 4:00? And I'm nodding no the whole time. Like, you're sending a total mixed signal, right? Like, anyone in their right mind's like, why is he asking me and nodding no? Like, something about this is just wrong, right?
The word is congruency.
Congruency.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have congruency.
Yes.
Right.
And same thing with your tone.
Absolutely.
38% of your total communication is the way the word sounds. So if I'm like, Bill versus Bill.
Yeah.
Same exact word, but the tone has totally different meaning for the listener.
For sure.
And then only 7% of your total communication is the way, like the actual words that you use, right? So the joke is you could say the wrong thing with the right tone and the right body language and people still understand you, or say nothing and they still understand you.
Yeah. And the important thing about the body, because a lot of what we do now is not face-to-face.
Correct.
Okay? It's
email, text, DMs,
text, or even phone. You got to understand that your body controls two things. It controls the way that you sound.
Yep.
Right. If I slump over, if I put my head down, right, there, it automatically my voice just changed. I didn't try and change my voice. I just sort of slumped over. But if I put my shoulders back, right, put a big smile on my face, it changes, right?
Yes.
And so it not only controls your tonality, your body controls your tonality, but the other key piece is that it controls the emotional state that you're in.
Bingo.
Okay. And so
dun, 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 dun.
That's right.
Right. Like,
You have your pregame ritual that you do before
1000%.
summit. You're on the
trampoline.
Trampoline. You know, you're doing your affirmations. There's a ritual that you go through, and that's designed to actually make sure that you're in peak state. I think Tony Robbins said it. He said one of the greatest reasons why salespeople fail is because they fail to control their emotional state.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
Which goes back to Hardy.
Do
what you don't want to do on the days that you don't want to do it. The only way you're going to be able to do that is to come up with some strategy that you have to be able to change your state.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So.
Talk about versatility.
So
first of all, how do you define it, and explain to maybe the audience why I'm even asking about it? Like,
so
give them context.
I think that most human beings,
I was actually waiting for you to go, the origin is Latin and it
is Latin and the quarks. And,
Professor Pipes.
So most individuals will gravitate to people that and clients that they feel comfortable with.
Yes.
Right. So, and those clients subsequently will gravitate towards them. The challenge with that is there's only a small portion of the population that
are just like you.
Yeah. And so if you don't have, what versatility is the ability to connect with multiple types of individuals, right, on a deep and meaningful level.
Yes.
Okay. No matter, how they speak, how they talk, how they walk, how they dress, etc. Right. So, if you look at, I want to be able to double my conversion. Well, double your versatility.
Yeah.
Instead of just being someone that, I only work with people who are high driven and figure out ways to work with the soft amiable, to be able to work with the high expressive, to be able to work with the incredibly analytical individual, instead of it just being, like square peg, circle, doesn't fit, square peg, circle, doesn't fit, square peg, square, there we go. Like, you end up wasting so many opportunities and you end up working so much harder than you have to.
That is, I don't think people really get how real that is.
Yeah.
Right. That you do have to work so much harder, and now some might argue, Bill, that it's also hard to try and fake it and be like other people. Is that what you're talking about? You're saying do I need to if I'm not analytical, suddenly act like I'm analytical? If I'm not very amiable, using obviously some very basic personality profile, and I'm going to go a totally different direction with you on this. But is that your thought? Fake it till you make it, or fake it to connect?
I don't think it's fake it till you make it. I think everyone has different parts of themselves that are similar to other individuals.
Yeah.
Meaning, I have an analytical side. It may be not what I lead on, right? But it's there.
Yeah.
I definitely have my expressive side.
Yeah.
I have my driver side.
Yeah.
I have an amiable side.
Yeah.
So it's really just allowing that portion of who I am, to
be able to tap into it.
To tap into it, because
Yeah.
it's all there. I think so many people get caught up in disc profile and they go, I'm a DI. Right?
So I got to
I'm
only
a
work with people.
driver expressive. So that's how I am.
Yeah.
And I have no choice, but that's just how I am.
Yeah.
Right? That's such a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Versus if you look at a disc profile, it says you have all of these characteristics.
Yes.
You just are naturally more inclined for this.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just tapping into that portion of yourself. It's not faking it.
Yep.
Right? It's, I'm going to use the more amiable Bill versus the more driver get get stuff done, Bill.
Yeah.
You know
I remember, and I would even argue too, like, do you remember back in the day when we were all, you were kind of in the next wave just because of the time that you joined us. But, Matthew and myself, we're all going through NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. We're learning from the greats, and, big shout out to like Robert Stover, who was my first coach, right? $500 a month. I'm 19 writing sentences until 3 in the morning to understand these language patterns. And it was just so like awesome, right? Kenrick Cleveland, who, I love, and John Grinder, Richard Bandler, the co-founders, right? Just got to meet all these insanely great people. But there was a time when like, we're like, okay, I'm going to figure out, is this person visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Yeah. Right? VAK, right? And then, because you weren't going to like taste
what
them
language
or
are they
smell
what
them.
Language
what
are
language
they
are they?
using?
I've got to only stay. And there is some truth to this, but I think versatility is the ability to recognize where the client is at and then allow that piece of you to come out.
That's exactly
right.
Correct.
To stay in there. It's no different from someone that like, sends you a text and you call them and they don't respond. Well, you've broken modality, right? Like,
that's what it is.
They
it's
text
the
you want to like, I tell people like, if you want versatility, like this is how I describe it. I would say, are you good enough for me to get you licensed or unlicensed, depending upon the country or the city that I drop you in, and have you go on listing appointments on Tuesday in Vienna? Yeah. Right? Can I put you in District 13 in Vienna tomorrow on a listing appointment? Look, like the comps are the comps, the prices are the price. Sure, it's euros, not US or Canadian dollar or, Mexican or like whatever it is. But could you just go there and do your thing with people in a foreign land? Maybe that speak a different language or speak enough of your language. Like that to me is high versatility.
For sure.
And people that, oh my God, I could never do that. Like,
but we do it all the time.
Hello, the world. Right?
Like, think about this. Everybody has adjusted who they are to be able to connect with somebody. Yes. If you have ever gone on a date, right?
Oh yeah.
You
like bananas, I like bananas.
Yeah, and you shift around and you do it because there's an end outcome that you're hoping to have occur, right? Yes. And you do it and this is the thing that I always come back to. I'm willing.
This should be taught on Bumble, Match. No.
Could you imagine?
Not so much on Tinder because it's just kind of swipe right.
The key for me is this: I'm committed to helping people reach their goals. Whether I was in real estate, whether I'm a coach, whether I'm a speaker, right? Whether I'm a mom, a dad, right? Whatever.
Soccer field,
whatever, right? I'm committed to. My commitment is to help people accomplish the goals that they have. I am more committed to that than I am to who my definition of self is. I'm willing to give up myself to be able to align with somebody else. I don't think there's any greater honor to somebody else than to say you and your goal is more important than my conditioning and programming that I have of who I think I am. Right. And so when I let that go, right, it actually feels good. It feels like, it doesn't feel like slimy manipulative, because look, this very clear, this could be dark side of the force stuff right here. I mean, you could absolutely use any of the tools of NLP or persuasion and influence techniques. I even don't like that word persuasion because it seems forced and manipulative. And it isn't. It's an honor to be able to actually, and this is what's really cool. When you start to align with the way that they speak, when you start to align with their body language patterns, you begin to understand them. Right? And you and I have had that before where you're like, dude, I was just going to say that. It's because you get in this cadence of rhythmic
It's a connection, man. It's the connection. All right. Totally random, really quick. Best sales books you've ever read?
I'm going to go old school first. Okay. How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I made only Michael Ferry, my son, at like 15, 16, read that book. He's like, game changer.
That was
right. Totally agree.
I think we were talking while we were walking around Balboa last night. That was the first book that one of my good friends, Jeff Purrington,
that's right. We did talk about that last night.
He got me that, and he got me Think and Grow Rich. Now, Think and Grow Rich is more of a mindset book, so I don't put that in there. I put How to Win Friends and Influence People as one of the primary ones. And
what would you say is the big takeaway from that book? Like reflecting on it right now, like for maybe someone that has never been exposed to it.
Genuinely get interested in other human beings.
Stop Ask trying questions. To be interesting. Start being interested.
I was thinking about that last night after. Like I was honestly thinking about that last night after we got done with dinner. I'm like, because we had that conversation. I'm like, what was the number one thing? And that was it. Like, can I really ask questions, be interested in other individuals, right? And show. And when I meet, and I've talked about this, when we meet multiple billionaires. who was the movie or the music producer that you went up to, that you played the
Barry Gordy.
Barry Gordy.
Oh my God.
Like the Barry Gordy story. Like
the coolest person on the planet.
What did he do the entire time where you guys were at dinner after he smoked you?
After he beat me in Dance Dance Revolution 3 times. Three times.
Smoked you.
You know who Barry Gordy is? Like created Motown. Like Michael Jackson, Jackson 5, Diana Ross. I mean, like legend. And his daughter is a real estate agent, right? Debbie Holloway, big shout out to her, coaching her. She walks up to me in the middle of a conference and goes, "Hey, do you want to dinner at Barry Gordy's house tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah." Right? We walk in. He is, I'm sorry if he or his daughter or anyone that knows it, I'm guessing he's late 70s at the time. And walk in. He's like, "Tom, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for working with my daughter. Tell me about you. What's going on?" Just at me. I'm like, Barry Gordy is asking, and he is, he's like this tall, and he is just super charismatic in my face. I'm like, "Barry, please show me your house, architectural, like insanely great home. Like, I want to say it was up in Bel Air, and it was just phenomenal estate." Walking around, he's showing me everything, gold records, yada, yada, yada. We're walking by, and I'm like, "Is that a Dance Dance Revolution game?" And it's the full big one. It's not like, a wee one. It's the full monster thing. No quarters required, by the way. And I'm like, and literally I just said to him, "By the way, I will smoke you at the end of dinner," which is the dumbest thing on the planet in hindsight to say to Barry Gordy, because he's got a Dance Dance Revolution in his house. And it's like
mental note to self.
Office master bedroom. Like I should have known, like that could have been his workout. And John Wesley, by the way, filmed on a flip video camera, which I believe we still have. We have to find this footage. If we can find this footage, it could be the most embarrassing thing ever, because he didn't smoke me once, he didn't smoke me twice. He told me, "I am going to get like 10,000 points and you're going to get like 200. And then after I got smoked the first time, I'm like, "Well, you've done this before." He goes, "I beat Michael Jackson all the time." I was like, oh man.
So you don't feel bad?
Oh, no, I'm competitive.
Yes.
And I want a Dance Dance Revolution right now just thinking about it.
But he asked you
a million questions. It was almost at times hard to reciprocate, though he was very generous. Yeah. He was very generous, where I was able to say, "Well, and tell me about you, and like, what's it like being Barry Gordy, and like, how do you stay relevant?" I remember just saying, like, how do you stay at the top of your game? How do you stay fresh? How do you? And he's like, "You just got to constantly check out new music, and you got to be into the cultural phenomena of the time." And and as he's talking, he's getting louder and more animated. And by the way, vegetarian, doesn't drink, works out every day, physically fit, totally brain focused, like everything that like we aspire to. I was just like, "Oh my God, like Barry Gordy." And he's, like, you have no idea, like I was so bad. All right, so wrap it up. Sales book. So one, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Number 2, Instant Rapport by Michael Brooks.
Oh my God, classic. Yeah. I just did a whole thing on that on my last podcast.
Yeah, so I love that. By the way, that was awesome. And then there's this one's not so well known. It's called Unlimited Selling Power. It's not Tony Robbins' book, Unlimited Power. It's Unlimited Selling Power.
Interesting.
Right? And what the book is, I forget who the author is. Black book, red. Oh,
my dad just texted me, by the way. This is rad. Like we're right in the middle of the podcast and my dad's texting me.
Nice.
Yes. He says that your beard makes you look old. We ran into him last night at dinner. That's super fun. All right, sorry. Unlimited Selling Power. No one is going to like this except for the people that know us, and they're going to be like, "Those guys are ham bones."
Yeah. Yes. 27 years, man.
Yeah, so, exactly. So friends for a long time.
Unlimited Selling Power. A lot of the book. It's an NLP book on sales.
Yeah.
A lot of the books that are out there on neurolinguistic programming and influence.
Sure.
It's all therapeutic.
It's very therapeutic.
Yeah,
it's very
completely therapeutic.
Yep.
This book is 100%. Takes the strategies and puts it over stuff I've never heard before.
Yes.
That I just went, "Ooh, that pattern, that's phenomenal," etc. Right? And it's you can get it on Amazon, right?
Okay.
And that book has revolutionized a lot of it's very strong.
Yep.
Like my approach to a large portion of the selling that I actually do.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm actually looking really fast here because there was another one that I never split the difference. We got that one. There was another one that I read recently, or I should say audio listened to. Okay, I'll come back to it.
Yeah. Those are my 3.
Okay, I love it. All right, so Bill, this has been super fun.
Yeah,
and I know you got to go get on an airplane, and you were in the office working, and the text from my dad making the podcast is just legendary.
Amazing.
He was just like, tell him he looks old.
Jeez,
Bill, shave your beard. All right. So anyway, hey, for everybody listening, first of all, thank you. Thank you for just like jumping in. Obviously, Bill, thank you just for being you, man. I mean, like the Sales Edge event, like what you do, it's so inspiring for me. Like I'll show up, there's like a couple years where I would just like show up randomly to Sales Edge. It's like killer 3-day conference. If you haven't been to it, you got to go. And I would literally, I would ask people like, okay, so how was day one? And they're like, oh, I was a little nervous, because like it's, I'm like learning these new scripts, but like, you made it really fun. And then, like, how was day two? Oh, like you could see like
the transformation,
the energetic shift in confidence.
I love that.
Like that's the way I describe it. Like you see people that are, it's no different from, learning something new, and you're like learning, I'm a little awkward. This is kind of weird, and I'm uncomfortable. And what are people saying?
Riding a bike, even.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
But since everybody's going through it at the same time, it takes some of the stress away. Yep. And then you come back on day two, and you're like, wait a minute, I have a little more finesse now. My personality's showing up. I'm using these words, but I'm allowing myself, right, to really be in it because I've understood now how to learn the script. Yeah. And then on day three, it's just like, they're like appointment setting machines.
And the physical transformation that actually occurs that you see, they're not the same people on day number 3 as they are on day number 1.
Yeah. Now, hold on. You're not healed. It's not like you're like, oh.
No, you still got to go out and work.
Yeah, but you're right. It's I would argue it's the shift in confidence. Yeah. I know what to say. I know how to say it. Yeah. I'm no longer afraid
to go and say it.
To shoot the video, to whatever.
And they're practicing again. I want to say one last thing. First of all, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. Super fun.
I love this. Yeah. We've had more fun, I think, in the last couple of weeks. Shave the beard.
I don't know. We were laughing pretty hard at Jackson Hole, but that could be a whole additional podcast.
The one thing I want to say to everyone who's listening is there's a mistake I see people make in life, and it translates over into sales as well too, Richard, that I think is critical. Be willing to fail. Yeah. I think the biggest mistake that I see is people aren't willing to take risks, and because they're afraid they're going to fail. Yep. But you remember Karen Bernardi.
Of course. Legend.
Yeah. And
Boulder, Colorado. Big shout out to Karen Bernardi.
Skiing with her, and I said, "How have you done this?" This is a woman that was selling hundreds of homes before no one was selling hundreds of homes.
Yes.
And she said something to me that I remember so well. She goes, most people are afraid to fail. She goes, I just fail faster, get up faster, and move forward. And then the thought hit me that success is a series of well-managed failures. Mm-hmm. It's really all that it is, And I think if you never put yourself in a position to fail, you never put yourself in a position to grow. And I think that stops so many people from being able to have the success, the happiness, the joy, the love, to not talk to the woman, the man that they want to not take a risk, to not, make the call, right? It stops people from being able to have a fulfilling life. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Nothing I could say better than that. So on that note, my friends, hey, thank you so much always for listening to the podcast. And hey, maybe share it with a friend, someone that wants to giggle and laugh and hear how silly we are as we're also talking about sales and influence and everything else. So we love you guys. Thank you. And Bill, thank you so much, brother. All right, see you soon. If you want more information about this episode, including my show notes, mentions, links, and everything else, make sure you visit tomferry.com/podcast. That's tomferry.com/podcast. Thanks again, and talk to you soon.